Hello, my name is Josh, and welcome to my final course recap of Speech 101. Throughout this course, we learned a lot about public speaking, speaking in general, the different types of speaking that we have, as well as different way you can present yourself and the speech to make sure that the audience is engaged. Invention is the first root of speaking that we spoke about, and that essentially is what you use to focus on what you want to say. It helps create a good flow for your speeches, especially in an informative speech where you got to make sure all your details are correct and that you're giving every opportunity for the listener to hear the thesis or what you want them to get an understanding of from this speech, as well as in that introduction speech, you got to make sure that you say who you are, why you're here, what you're doing. So that's definitely a huge part of bringing out the positive arguments in your speeches, as well as gathering data before you even start the speech to make sure that you have clear evidence for your listener. Arrangement was the second part of the 5 roots, and this was especially helpful, making sure that your speeches had a beginning, middle, and end. During our informative speech, this helped a lot because you were able to properly use your data to make your main points and then use your sub points effectively, as well as being able to put your personal experience or the data within the speech using pictures, graphs, or maybe even an antidote in the correct spots so that your listeners would be engaged and would be able to follow that whole speech. The arrangement was also huge when you had your ethos, your logos, and your pathos. That was extremely useful to be able to properly use those in your speech, and make sure it was well organized, where you had your logos first, to put out your argument, maybe provide some statistics or numbers, or some scientific research. And then you were able to lead into your ethos, where you can use a personal anecdote or something that the audience would be able to relate to a little bit more. And that pathos is just adding in, maybe some stories, or it was how you delivered the speech. There's definitely a huge difference in delivering a informative speech versus a storytelling speech or a ceremonial speech. And that leads me into the style and delivery roots of public speaking, because when you're delivering or the style of speech that you use can really impact. So for a ceremonial speech, it'd be more of a personal tone and not so much a firm and confident tone, because you're not looking to persuade anyone or make a claim and back up that claim. You're looking to maybe inspire or motivate people with whatever piece you chose to use at the beginning. And that's hugely important, because if you're not able to create that tone specifically for that speech, people might get confused or think it is less credible because you are more personal in it than providing the research data that an informative speech might use. The delivery is also hugely important, and that's another root of the public speaking, because when I was doing my informative speech, it was easier to be more direct and firm with the audience. I had used sleep and how depriving yourself of sleep is not very healthy, and that's more of a serious topic than my ceremonial speech, where I used a Walt Whitman poem, and then after explained how important it is to be kind to others, and that would be more of a not so firm speech, but more to inspire everyone and make sure people understand the importance of the poem. That's not just about the writing and the style and the person, but the message behind it and what you would like them to understand about it. Where that informative speech and maybe the argumentative part of the course, you needed to be more direct and firm, and there needed to be eye contact and the confidence that you had behind each one of your arguments and your main points and your sub points, as well as making sure that your ethos is credible with statistics in the beginning or enough data to help push along your points, especially with your arguments. When you are delivering an argument, you want to make sure that you're concise, that you provide enough data to back up that argument. And it is very much less relaxed than what you would do in a ceremonial speech. With delivery, one of the big things was memory. So if you can memorize your speech and give off the fact that you understand what you're talking about, you have a deeper knowledge, especially in that informative speech, it is way more helpful. Being able to provide facts without having to go to a piece of paper and say, oh, on from my sheet of paper, the CDC says this, and this. You are able to look someone directly in the eyes and say, the CDC says that 8 hours of sleep is great for people between the ages of 29 and 30. Where in your ceremonial speech, it was helpful if you were able to just read that poem out, because then memorizing it could show you it has a deeper meaning than just being a poem to you. So, memory helped a lot. And especially with storytelling, if you have that whole thing memorized and the story memorized, you're not going to falter, you're not going to miss points, and the listener is going to be able to follow your speech way easier than if you're going back and forth from a paper and then looking up, making another argument, going back to your paper to make sure that you're getting the details correct. Also, with memory, it's going to help you have more of a conversation with your listener. It may be a one-sided conversation where you're speaking, but it helps to keep them engaged and help them feel they're a part of this speech. Especially if you are putting up pictures where you're able to look and point to the picture and say, hey, this is exactly what that picture means, and it lines up exactly right where my speech is. I think this course really helped develop my skills on public speaking and how I create a speech, as well as made me realize there's definitely more to public speaking than just writing something and getting up and speaking it to an audience, whether you're adding in more pictures, you're doing research on exactly what audience you are speaking to. My ceremonial speech might have been more geared towards to a speech you would do at a graduation, or maybe after an award ceremony, where my informative speeches are something that I would do as part of a class, and maybe a science class in the future as well. I would say this course definitely helped me realize to organize my speeches beforehand, write them down beforehand, and make sure that I have all my points organized so that I can properly deliver a speech to whatever audience that I am going to be speaking with.